You've heard them all a million times. The story of the man with the hook for a hand who scratches at the couple's car door. The tale of the killer who phones his unsuspecting victim from inside the house. The Bogeyman. But what about story of Slender Man, the lithe and faceless humanoid who stalks and kidnaps children late in the night? Or the harrowing tale of Jeff the Killer, the tormented youth who mutilated his own face and exacted gruesome revenge on his bullies? Or the legend of Mr. Widemouth, a creepy, crooked-eared creature who lures children into danger? If the answer's no, then consider yourself lucky. You probably sleep way better at night. But millions of viewers are deeply familiar with these scary and relatively new urban legends that have proliferated online in the internet age. They're so popular, in fact, that this exploding genre of horror story even has a name, creepypastas, a twist on copypastas, digital world slang for cut and pasted memes. So if you love nothing more than freaking yourself out, watch on, because here we've compiled the scariest, most spine-tingliest, and utterly freakiest urban legends that have spread far and wide since the explosion of the information superhighway. And if these don't send your body successfully in the fight or flight, then try your hand at these 10 scary games so spine-tingling they're addictive. Slender Man. Meet the most infamous urban legend of the internet era. Created by Something Awful user Eric Knudsen under the fictional name Victor Surge, this long-limbed, faceless man supposedly appears in photographs with young children right before they go missing, never to return again. The story, largely due to its vagueness, has simply exploded, with outsized influence and impact. It has also and has led to some terrifying real-world events. In 2014, following a slumber party, two young girls in Wisconsin lured a friend into the woods, where one of the girls stabbed the victim 19 times as the other friend looked on and encouraged her. When questioned by the police, the girls claimed that they did it to impress the so-called Slender Man. The girls said they were compelled to kill to protect themselves and their families from the demon, and after the slaying planned to run away to the demon's mansion, which they believed was in the Nicolet National Forest in Wisconsin, the Washington Post reported. Thankfully, the victim survived. The Expressionless. In June 1972, a woman appeared in Cedars-Sinai hospital in nothing but a white, blood-covered gown. This urban legend begins. As the story goes, the woman scared everyone she came in contact with, not because of her blood-smeared garments, but because she resembled something close to a mannequin. As you might imagine, things didn't go well for the innocents who crossed paths with the so-called Expressionless. Jeff the Killer. The legend of Jeff the Killer first emerged in 2008 when a YouTuber used a creepy image of a featureless, stark white face in a slideshow of spooky images. Soon after, a Jeff the Killer backstory started to circulate in which a badly bullied boy named Jeffrey Woods mutilated his own face and got revenge on his tormentors, often whispering the phrase, "Just go to sleep," as he inflicted cruel punishment on those who wronged him. Yikes. Mr. Bear. Mr. Bear is the bad guy in 1999, one of the scariest and most well-known urban legends in the creepypasta circuit. According to Elliot, the story's fictional protagonist who explains about his experience with Mr. Bear via blog posts, Mr. Bear was the star of a show called Mr. Bear's Cellar on a little-known local station in Canada, every episode of which concluded with children being led into a cellar to play hide-and-seek. Though the show wasn't particularly well done, Elliot continued to watch every day, and thanks to his fascination, he eventually found out just what Mr. Bear was up to in that cellar of his. The Harbinger Experiment. The Harbinger Experiment tells of a scientist named Zimmerman whose attempt to house spirits in the bodies of human test subjects goes horrifically wrong, so wrong, in fact, that the people who come out of the experiment rooms are hardly people at all. Instead, they're hairless, black-eyed, screaming monsters intent upon murdering those who harmed them. As far as scary urban legends go, this one is particularly enthralling, thanks to a combination of good pacing, great writing, and an oh-so-gripping storyline. Mr. Widemouth. In this terrifying tale, a 5-year-old boy experiences vivid fever dreams and encounters a large-mouthed, crooked-eared creature who goes by the name of Mr. Widemouth. Though he seems harmless at first, the Furby-like creature soon tries to convince the young boy to partake in many a dangerous activity, and, well, let's just say that Mr. Widemouth isn't very good at taking no for an answer. Robert the Doll. The only thing that makes the widely circulated online tale of Robert the Doll creepier is the fact that it's based on a real doll. Evidently, the toy that the story is based off of was the property of a young Floridian resident named Robert Eugene Otto, or Gene, back in the early 1900s, and during that time, it has been said that Gene would often speak about Robert as if he were a living, breathing creature capable of making his own mischief. Even after Otto died in 1974, residents of Key West continued to experience unexplainable encounters with Robert. He'd allegedly make faces, giggle, and move objects around the room. Currently, the potentially possessed doll is housed at the Key West Art and Historical Society, and paranormal enthusiasts are constantly making the trek to Florida just to visit the Hollow Boy. The Song and Dance Man. The Song and Dance Man isn't your run-of-the-mill murderer. As one purported survivor of his attacks recalls in this tall tale, the tall and gangling man puts his victims in a trance, forcing them to dance until their bodies can no longer handle it. The Black-Eyed Children. The first story to ever circulate about the black-eyed children, spooky, dead-eyed kids who menacingly stare at adults and try to get invited into homes and cars to commit acts of mass murder, was a supposed eyewitness account written by a journalist named Brian Bethel. According to Bethel, during his travels in Abilene, Texas, 2 children with coal-black eyes had approached his car and asked for a ride home, but when he started to show fear, the older of the 2 boys started shouting, "We can't come in unless you tell us it's okay," and Bethel got out of there before it was too late. To this day, Bethel insists that his interaction with the black-eyed children actually happened, a claim he's repeated on TV and in a local Abilene paper, but people are more than hesitant to believe in these creepy children. While the black-eyed children have been around for decades, it wasn't until the internet that stories about them became as commonplace as your average bogeyman. Since these children are so well known in the creepypasta community, Reddit and 4chan users love to use them as antagonists in some of their most dreadful scary stories. The Blind Maiden. Be careful should you choose to visit the website blindmaiden.com. Most of the time the URL just leads to an empty page, but should you happen to visit it under the right circumstances, perhaps during a new moon, when all of the lights in your room are out, then you might just find yourself looking at a whole new level of horror. Supposedly, people who manage to actually find the website when it's live encounter a blind woman who then comes out from inside their computer to gouge their eyes out and add images of their horrified reactions to her collection of spine-tingling screenshots. Thanks for watching part 1, please subscribe for the upcoming videos.